Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go over some intro to coding. How I plan on doing the coding sessions for Saturday is I'm going to do this as a block system. And what I mean is that the first block system will be for introduction, for starters on that. And I'm going to record this, and we'll go a couple of phases. And then what I'll do is for those guys doing that area, you'll start working on, after we're done with that area, you'll start working on those examples and things like that. And I'll have objectives for you guys to do on there. And then when we come in the next session, you guys will be elevated into critiques and checking out those areas and then doing another block for that area, while the other more advanced people that are actually going on there, they'll be in a second block, which will be going over different areas. So I figured I'll have certain type of areas for you, and eventually I have these recorded so you could watch and say, watch block 1 and then see where you are there, and then we'll use these sessions as Q&A when we get all those recorded and things like that, so we can expand and do different things on there. The main thing is there's going to be things that you guys need to expand and explore and go off there. And if it comes to the point where you come in and you haven't had time to work on that, you'll go in and watch one of the blocks and go from there and go there. But the idea here would be is that I have these recorded, these main areas recorded, and you watch those, and then we have these sessions to Q&A, what you're doing and how to expand on that. So to start off with block 1 is literally, it's going to be just introductory to scripting, or better yet, in Maya. Okay, so this is block 1. So the first area we want to talk about on here is creating a script and running it. So this is very, very, very basic stuff. So starter script. So that actually leads us into the script editor and then creating a welcome script. That'll also lead into saving and sharing scripts, which will be GitHub and Gist. Okay, that will then lead us into very basic basics of data, which is all theory. And then it will teach us with the culture of commands in Maya. Now, I do have videos for pretty much all the stuff except for the Gist and GitHub things on here. And if you guys went for the CRI stuff, you guys have already seen this stuff on here. But this is there to be able to transcend on here because we will advance on to that. Also, I'm recording this too, so in case you're on there. And we'll start creating a Gist file on here. So that being said, I'm going to open up the Discord and let's talk about Gist. So under Gist, and I'm going to be saving this under the scripting area, under here. So I'm not even doing this in the tool building stuff on here. I'm just going to leave it on the open on here. The first thing we're going to do is talk about Gist. So I'm actually going to, a lot of the sessions also kind of playing around where I'm going to go from the stuff. So these notes are going to be saved. So you guys need to have a GitHub account. Now, a GitHub account is a repo or a repository for scripts. GitHub is there to store multiple scripts. So you can save all your scripts and do different things like that. You can always upload. Normally, your Gist ones are more finished things that you're uploading on there, or things you're iterating or more beyond. Now, if you want to just share scripts with people, there's something called Gist, which is part of GitHub. And over here, when you have an account, there's a little plus symbol that says, hey, create a new repo, new Gist. Repo is a folder for all your saves, so you could actually share someone with all your scripts. Say, hey, here's my repo, and you could do something called I want to fork off of this repo, which means I want to actually download, and when you guys update, mine updates, and then I could technically add on top of that. A fork is actually taking your own branch off on that. For you guys at this level, you're not really worrying about that too much, but I'm kind of using these terms because these are things that you'll use when you're in the industry. More importantly is that when you update this, this can pull and actually refresh on your computer. So if you update this, theoretically, people that are actually sharing or learning off your GitHub could actually automatically update their stuff. That's not the main focus of this one, because right now it's more for sharing for me on there. But yeah, you can update and see changes and get that pumped right into your system on there. It just takes a little more ingenuity to do that. It takes command line stuff, it takes programs to update that stuff, and it is more complicated than I want to get into. So I'm going to create a new gist here. And I'm going to call this, my description on this is going to be, block 1 notes. In Maya. This is literally going to be text. So when I'm taking notes on here, you'll have access to it. So I'm just going to drop this down like that. And I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to create a public gist. If you're doing this stuff for accounts and things like that, if you're doing something that's, you can't share it, you do a secret one. I will tell you your GitHub is not private unless you pay for it. So be mindful. If you put something on there for you working on a studio, it'll be out in the open, so you want to be careful with that. So I'm going to create a public gist. Okay, now I have this, and I should be able just to share this. Let me think. Okay, so how you work with this is if I make updates, so I'm going to actually share this right here. So I want you guys to test this. I always have to jump around. Okay, so try jumping in there really quick and see if it pops up, because it should give me, it's good? Okay, good. So how does this work on here? Well, let's say I'm actually making a change to this. I go up to edit, and I could say, like that, and I can just update the public gist. Now, if you go to the other area, it will automatically update on yours. So if you refresh it, it should be there. Now, if you look up here, it says 2 revisions. So if I go up on there, you could see what I've actually changed. So this is the first version of script where everything is new. And this one here shows me what's been added. So if I go back to the previous one and I do edit and I delete this, and I look at my revisions, you'll see that's been deleted. Ideally, what GitHub and Gist and SDN and different type of repos on this are going to do is they allow you to see what's been added and changed. And theoretically, you should have multiple people be able to work on these scripts at the same time, as long as they're working on very independent areas. And it will just update and mesh and push things together on that. And it allows you to do practice where you can branch off into different areas, do tests, and if you don't like it, you can go back up the tree. Practice. All these versions are remembered. So if I ever want to go back to the original one, I can actually do that at any point. And that's where you kind of fork, because you could fork off of that area where it was working and start building off from that branch on there. Again, that's kind of a pretty advanced way of scripting at this point. We're just trying to share. So we're taking this really shiny car and shiny, like we have this really shiny device, and we're using it as a hammer to slam in nails into the ground and things like that. So we're not using it as full ability. So yeah, I've actually used this encoding where I've linked this into my Maya projects, and it actually updated and worked on those type of stuff. There's all different types of worlds of working on that. Okay, so my idea here is so I can keep on going back and forth and adjust on here and make changes. Okay, cool. So that leads us off of Gist. So I did cover Gist in the beginning part then. So when you share with me, you know what I want. I want a Gist file for your script. Okay. I love the fact is that when we save, we're probably going to edit off the same account so that I can see when changes have happened. So instead of sending me a new Gist link each time, you just send me the same one again and you've updated it. See? There you go. Okay. So now we want to go into the script editor. Now this is really basic stuff on here. Again, I think everybody's already been past my class, but I still want this in here. So in case someone's in here before my class, they go across this. So if I go into Maya, I'm actually going to go in Maya 19 because I'm switching over to 19 now. So there might be new little anomalies that I'm not aware of. Okay. Okay. So actually, I take that back. I don't want to do that. So down at the bottom, I'm opening the script editor. And we have our Mel and Python area, which are our two types of script language. Everything that pops up in our history area up here is going to be in Mel. So a lot of our job is going to be taking things from Mel and bringing it over to Python on there. So we're going to be in Python the majority of this time. Up here is our menus for running. What we're really going to focus on here is clearing the history up here, which is this little button here, clear history. This one clears our input, which I rarely use, and this one clears both, which I never use. I use these two buttons a lot. This one actually executes everything inside of here, and this one only executes currently what's selected on here. So our first thing we're going to do, and by the way, if you want to increase the size of your text inside here, if you hold down Command and middle mouse wheel, you can increase or decrease the size of your text. You can do that in any grouping of fields, including the expression editor and stuff like that. You guys might not need that, but inside when I do here, I use that all the time. So I'm going to type a keyword print, and I'm just going to say in single quotes, hello. Now, you notice what I did there. When I actually did my print, you typically have some type of command. Let's do this. I tell you what, and in a lot of the videos, I don't do it this way. I'm gonna make this, because typically you have a command called print, or I have some type of command. Then you have parentheses like this. Whatever in the parentheses is how you're using that command. This is what we're going to call as arguments, or attributes in a way. These are things that are going to change on here. Now, I know none of my examples use this. This is very Python 3 going from Python 2.7. I'm not talking about that right now. But inside here, I put single quotes, and I say hello. Both of these are interchangeable. I think from this point on, I'm going to use the parentheses because there's going to be reasons on there. Because this explains we have a command, and inside the parentheses, we have modifiers of what that command is doing. In this case, if I hit double play, it's just going to say hello. Okay? Going to the next line in Python means going to the next line. In Mel, you have to have something called a line terminator, which is a semicolon, which does work in Python. You can use semicolons as a line terminator, but you don't have to, because going to the next line is a line terminator. So I'm going to say print, and I'm going to say double quotes there. Now you notice I actually opened and closed my quotes before I typed them in. That is a reaction because I will forget the other double quotes. Let's say I'm quoting somebody inside here. So I'm going to say, now this is a famous line that Nixon says. Let's say I want to put reference on here. Well, don't you need to quote him when I do that? Well, this breaks everything. That's what we can use single quotes around. But importantly, that's why I use my beginning and ending quotes when I do this right off the bat, so I know my range right off the bat. So anytime I have a beginning and ending, like parentheses, quotes, curly brackets, I always kind of flush in and out of that system. I try to build that out, and I build from the inside out. Because when you start getting more advanced systems, you start going to get what's called nested systems like this, and it could get very easy to forget how those systems are actually built in there. The difference is that these are actually characters, not encapsulated as data. Okay. Cool. See? But again, what I really want to cover there is that text can be represented in double quotes and in single quotes because of that reason specifically. Okay? Cool? Okay, so it's very, very preliminary, and this is a way of getting you into the script editor to play around on here. So now that we're in here, there's a couple of things we need to set up when we run our code. So in the history area up here, we have two areas of interest we need to focus on here. We have echo all commands, which we're not using right now. We have line numbers and errors, which tells us when we have an error. But more importantly, we have this show stack trace. You need to have both of these guys turned on to give you proper line errors. This could have been fixed in 19. I don't know. It did it. It most likely is not. So I normally run these two and put both of these on here. Okay. So what does that do? Well, if I actually void out or miss a line and I hit double play, let me clear my history, it's going to give us our errors. So let's look at this before and after I did that. See how it just says invalid syntax? It should have given us a line. We have line numbers on, but yet it doesn't tell us the line number, where this one up here did tell us the line on here. So that being said, we do need to make sure we have both of those turned on. Okay? Let's look at what the error is on here and see how we track this on here too. I'm going to go over this more in essence on here, but you're going to have an error. It's going to give you the type of error it is, where it thinks the error is on here. So let me change this because this will be a little more accurate if I do this. Okay, so it's giving us a little caret symbol trying to point out where the error is. It's not correct. It's on line 4 here, where it should be on line 2. And it's telling us it's actually at the beginning of here. Because what's happening is it's falling down the staircase and then it's stopping at the bottom of the staircase here. It's not smart enough to realize that that was the end. That's where the error was. So if I forget this, it probably will find that. See? It was very quick. This is a while EOL while scanning literal string level. There's going to be errors up here that you're not going to understand. But the point is you should be able to look and see, oh, okay, I see. It's trying to point to this area here on it. Okay? Cool. I'm going to have to cover error repairing and fixing and diagnosing problems on your scripts at a later time. Because right now, if I talk about it, it'll be the chicken or the egg type of thing. Cool? Okay. Nothing too crazy right at this point. We're just going over some preliminaries. So the important thing here is I use the script editor to test code. That's it. When I need to actually have something more formulated, I bring it to Sublime as an external script, and then I make a gist and send it to people that way. The reason is because the script editor lies to you in lots of ways. Why? Because every time I make a new tab, data between these two tabs are shared. That is not how Python scripts work. Think of each tab as a paragraph. They are all very aware of the other tabs. Your scripts in your scripts folder are not aware of variables in the other scripts, only about what's inside themselves, and that other scripts exist. That's it. So in other words, if I actually make data in here and access it from over in this tab, it will work. If I do that in scripts, it will not. Also, there's times where data can be contaminated inside the script editor and give you false results. This will not happen when you're an external script. So I'm going to try to get to an external script as quickly as possible. So I'm going to copy this code out, and I'm going to bring it into a Sublime file. And if you don't have Sublime, I do have videos on Sublime. Okay, so I'm going to open a new tab here. I'm going to paste this down, and then I'm going to go down in the bottom here and switch over to Python, like that. I'm going to save this. Now, I'm on a Windows computer. It's harder to get to your scripts folder inside of a Mac, which is kind of irritating because I forgot that I'm going to have this problem on here. I do have a video on how to find this. This is the point where I'm going to... Does anybody here not know how to find their scripts folder? You guys all know how to find your scripts folder? Okay. So that being said, this is the time in my thing that I'm going to say... because it will not be the same on my computer it's on yours, because I'm on Windows. On Windows, because I don't cover this in that video, on Windows it's actually stupid easy to get to it. All I do is I go into Documents. Where's my Documents? Okay. Wow, I don't have, okay, I go to Documents down here. I go into Maya, and then I'm in it. There it is, Scripts. That's it. So it's this path. And this is obviously, this is my computer. But this is my scripts folder. So it's really easy to find. That's weird. Oh, I see what it's doing. Never mind. It's working. Okay. Okay. So that's the scripts folder on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this guy in that scripts folder. So I'm going to say save as. And I'm already in my scripts folder. I want to make sure I'm in the right one. I am. And I'm just going to call this block 1 intro. And that's going to be my name of my script. I save. I'm going to put that name at the top of my, what is that? Okay. I'm going to put my script at the top of the name here. And I'm just going to put a pound symbol, which is going to be a comment, and I'm just going to paste that down so I have access to this. I'm going to save that. Okay? So that being said, I want to run this from here. So I'm going to go to my new tab that I created, and we're going to import that. So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to type in the name of my script without the .py on there. This will be the same thing this will be the same thing you're going to see the video is called the welcome script. Again, if you went through this scripting from CRI, I'd completely do this on there. Yes?
Is that similar to Hello World?
Yes, same thing. Main thing is one of my most important aspects of scripting, especially starting off, is just establishing the most simple script to start off with. Because the starting point, to me, is the most complicated part of scripting. Just being able to start working and iterating off of that. Especially, Python's very easy, but if you're in like C++ or you're doing C# inside of Unity, just getting started can be a nightmare. So you just want to say, hey, is this working? Because some scripting languages need like template code to get started. And some places have to be debugged and set up and compiled in a certain location. You don't want to have to fight with that stuff just to make sure if your script is working. And it will give you an insane amount of errors, even with a simple hi statement. So you'll know the chance of you making a mistake on a hi statement is very unlikely. But if you put in a block of code, stuff you haven't practiced with, the chances of you making a mistake are much higher, exponentially higher. Point is, you're trying to curve your bets. You don't want to be fighting against the system when you're trying to understand a new system that's going in there. Make things simple. So if I run this, it is going to actually tell me, it's going to do those print statements like this. If it's not right, it's going to tell you module doesn't exist. Watch. If I do this and I run it, it's going to say, what is that? No module named block intro 2 on there. That's a spelling issue. Your number one mistake is going to be location on your script and spelling issues when you do this. More than anything. Invalid characters, like putting numbers at the beginning of your scripts, putting invalid characters, putting spaces at the beginning of your scripts, or putting in exclamation marks and things like that. Those are less likely to happen, but not being in the right folder, very highly likely to happen.
I remember when I showed James my script and he copied it over, he did a lowercase t instead of an uppercase t, and it just didn't work.
Oh yeah, it's not smart enough. Computers are not smart. They follow instructions very well, but they can't go on context, or they can't look at something and goes, oh, he really meant this. It's very hard to program that type of stuff. Okay, so in this case, importing does is it compiles the script. That being said, it doesn't compile twice. If you bought a car, every time you start the car, it's not going to give you a brand new car. Sounds like a great idea, but if you have a new car pop up every time you do a start, that's being kind of annoying after a while. That being said, when I add new code on there, I want to recompile, which is the reload command. Again, same structure. We have a command, and inside the parentheses, we have what we want to do, have that command do, which is reload. In this case, when I do that, if I just run import, it's not going to do anything because you already have that book on your desk. That library's already been imported. So it's not going to run it again. If you want it to completely run the thing again, you got to reload. So I'm going to do the double play, and now it says, hey, there it goes. It runs. So I've recompiled. I have established this guy's working. Okay? Cool. Now I want to talk about a multi-line comment header. A header is a description of what the script is doing. Anybody that's actually seen my prior script projects from students, they'll know my headers very quickly. This is a multi-line comment, 3 strings starting, 3 strings stopping. I put in the name of my script at the top. You do not have to use the % or the pound sign right now. But I normally have a description. What does it do? And then a how to run. Ideally, someone should open this script and run this to run my script, which is this here. Copy this, Command C, Command V. If you're not Command C and Command Ving, you better get used to it. Yes?
Since you have the name of this already in your header, do you have to have the pound sign in front of the name?
No, you do not. So this will work time. I will say, talking very technically, this is not a true comment. This is a multi-line string, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. The only true comment in Python is the pound symbol. There is no multi-line comment. In other languages, you have things like this. Not that. That's in C. Half the languages use this as a multi-line comment. And then the other ones, and then the single-line comments are like that. You'll see that in Mel. Mel uses this. Python does not use those. For better or for worse. Okay. When you're in Sublime, the little opaque dot means it's not saved. Why am I putting attention to that? Common mistake outside not being in the same location and not spelled name, forgetting to save your file and check it when you've saved it. I can't tell how many times I do that personally. Like, it's not running, it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, it doesn't look at any changes, and I realize I haven't saved. I'm like, God damn it. So make sure to save often. Cool, and it's working. Work iteratively. Don't work iteratively. Don't do large amounts of changes. Do small changes, test it. You should be able to prove that things are going in a certain direction. The more lines of code you put down at a time, the more likely you're going to make a stupid mistake and you're going to paint right over it. And I hate redoing things. I hate tracking things down. So when I do things in small steps, I'm not doing it for you guys' benefit. I'm doing it because that's how I code. It's like a person that plays chess for a long time. I'm thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead. So yes, I can do more things than you guys do. That's because I just have more experience in it. But until you get there, you got to go smaller steps. That's going to be the first thing I said. Did you trace back your steps? Did you go through? Okay, cool. So let's look at our notes. Awesome. So we got our header. Now let's talk about some data in Python, and then we're going to jump into commands pretty damn quickly. Okay? So data. I'm going to run this in here. I'm actually going to make a new tab on here, and I'm going to run this here. So I do have videos on this, and this was another thing I did cover in CRI on there, so if you want to see more detail. Now you're going to hear me talk about areas that are theory in programming, and you're going to hear me talk about things that are culture. I'm going to misspell that. Okay. This is the difference between learning Spanish from a textbook and then learning conversational Spanish. There's a big difference. When you're learning, you need to know your grammar structure. You got to understand how things are put together and how phrases work and what words are out there. That gives you more capacity to do more things. But unless you're actually going out and talking to people and understanding the culture of that environment, you sound like someone who learned it from an English book or a Spanish book. That's here. Programming, when I say things theory, stuff like variables or data, variables, loops, or I say variables, lists, loops, if statements, functions. These are all theoretical things that exist in all programming languages. So when I sit down a new programming language, I figure out how is data represented. How do I store information? How do I store groups of information? How do I loop through information? How do I pick choices in my script can branch off? And then how do I group together my blocks of code into smaller subroutines on here? You need to be studying these things all the time. If you have spare moments, you should be Googling and looking up, like watching other people do work, or actually doing online work through sites like Codecademy. I'm just going to... Oh, fuck. I'm just going to say Codecademy. Because I'm not going to try to spell that. Because I'm going to do it. Codecademy is a good one. It's all theoretical. It is only Python, though. It will not help you with Maya. It will not help you with Nuke. It will not help you with Houdini directly. But you still need to know how variables are stored and how they move around. So there's a lot of different things on there. There's a lot of things that are just based upon the culture of Python that are out there. So if you go to a site like Codecademy, there it is. It's not only free anymore, but there is like Python stuff that you can learn on here. And most of the stuff that's actually free is stuff I've used all the time. You need to be studying this stuff because you need to know how to have the capacity. If you don't understand certain grammar structure, it doesn't matter how much conversational Spanish you have, you still won't be able to write it. I'm sure you've had people say, I can speak Spanish, but I can't write it. It's not the same thing. There's a two-way street on it. So the thing is, this will expand into any program. You just have to say, how do I do this, how do I do this, how do I do this? So if you told me tomorrow to go into C# or go into a new type of language out there, Moai, that's not one. Like Kale, which actually doesn't exist anymore. I'm trying to think of languages I don't know. Like Ruby. I don't know Ruby worth anything. Ruby on Rails, I don't know that stuff at all. If I had to do Perl or something like that, I would say, how do I store values? How do I do variables? What is data represented? I just ask those things right down the line. And I would actually type in things like Python to C++. And I would see people talking about it. Same thing if you're learning Maya and need to jump into Houdini, you'll say Maya, Houdini for Maya users. And you'll find videos talking about how to translate between the two. Ideally, if you know Spanish, you'll be able to pick up other languages that are similar around it because they're in the same structure and go from there. Okay? So there's lots of sites like these out there. There's Codecademy. There's Khan Academy. There's also schools. There's also online schools programs like Coursera, and I forgot the other one. But there's a lot of them out there. You should always kind of go in and spend time. Even if you're just watching videos talking about variables and data, it will fluctuate into your head and you won't even realize it's there. It'll bore its way in there. The fact is you know it's there is very important. Same thing with the cultural way. You've got to be studying the cultural way too. So that's where we're going here. Now, I'm going to talk about theory, which I'm going to talk about data. Because data is the core in how things. Now, there's three types of data you're going to focus in Python. There's going to be ints, or integers, and floats. Now, these are pretty much either whole numbers, like 33, or float numbers with a decimal point, like 3.14. Okay? Okay. That's the only thing on between those two. Other languages, you have to actually define your types to do this. Python is when you use those types, it knows it's supposed to be there. It is a dynamic allocation of memory on it, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. So in other words, examples 33, 0, negative 27. Those are all types of integer values. Floats 3.14, negative 27.8, and 0.01. Those are all floats. The third one is string. These are characters or numbers not to be counted. Okay? The trick here is they're within quotes. Hello. 23. Your name. Okay? Cool. I could run this. It's not going to do anything. But I wanted to have this data. That's going to lead us into variables, and we're going to talk about that through other areas. So actually, we can go through that too. Variables right now. Variables store data. So if I type in name, now name has my name in it. However, if I do name again, it overwrites what's currently inside name and stores George in that case. Only one piece of information can be in a variable at a time. Okay? You'll notice there's no name of int, float, string, or anything like that before this. Because just making a variable, whatever data you put in there, it will store that. So if I type in 23 here, name will now be an integer instantly. It trashes what was in there before and now puts that in its place. Like that. And then we have lists. So if I say names, and I say in hard brackets, this is an empty, I'm going to call this empty right here. This is an empty list. This is names. This is a list that has data in it. Cool? Okay, if I run that, nothing happens. If I want to display the information in these, I will have to actually print this stuff out. See? Okay. Again, I have these in longer videos in the CRI videos as well. So this is very much review for you guys that's on here. Okay? So that leads us, after we have this, I'm going to put this code in here. This is not much anything that specific. So I'm going to make a new block on here. I'm going to make a new just link. The name of this script is... Oh, I was going to put that in here. Never mind. No, that's my notes. I'm going to put this data in here too. So let's go back to this guy here. So let's test this out here. I'm going to take all this code here I'm going to select it all, hit and Control A. I'm going to copy it and paste it down here. Now here's the important thing is that when I'm in the script editor, you see this stuff echoing up here, right? That's not running. You're not seeing that. The only thing you're going to see here is George 23 when I run that other script. So if I clear my history here and I go back to this other script here, I didn't want that, and I go back here and I run this, you see how it says, actually why didn't it say anything? What do you think I made a mistake on? I didn't save it. That one I kind of knew I did that, but I will have times where I start yelling at it. And it just says George 23, so all this stuff is thrown away. We have to print the show. That's where printing is one of the most important commands you're going to do. Oh, by the way, I'm actually not put quotes in here. I have to get used to doing this. No, let me do it this way. I will get used to doing that. The reason is because right now Maya is in Python 2.7. When you move to 3, they got rid of the one without the parentheses on it. So they have both technically in 2.7, but eventually when they do move on to 3, it should have those. Yeah.
Once you highlight it after the
Wait, how to put the 2 parentheses on the side and things like that? It does that naturally inside of Sublime. So if I just highlight it and then put Shift and do that, it will automatically do that.
Oh, okay.
It does that with anything. If I go in here and I want to comment this out, I can just put in quotes like this, and you see how it's doing it automatically. That's just a part of Sublime. You can also go in, and there's a way of actually like putting comments on everything really quick, and I always forget what this is. I think it's right here. Let's see. Yeah, it's Shift and then front slash on there, which is actually the comment for a command. Oh no, it's Control. Sorry. So I can actually comment things out like that too. So not Shift, it's Control. Okay. I don't use that too often because I forget about it, and I don't like doing magic when I'm doing lectures and everything like that. So I save that and I run it. I added new code, so I want to test it, and there it goes through. That's interesting. Why did it do that? Oh, you know why? Because I didn't put... that's weird. Oh, no. Okay. I didn't know it would do that. Interesting. So I'm going to take that back. I'm getting rid of this. And the reason is because it's actually thinking it's something else when I'm doing that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to do it this way for now. Okay, so maybe I'm not going to do that. It's doing something else on there, which I do not want to get into. Okay, so that being said... No. Okay, so that being said, I want to move on to our next area, which is commands in Maya. Again, this is review. And I gotta close that down, that's annoying me. That we need to know how to run things inside of Maya. So if I want to run commands in Maya, what I'm going to do is I have to import the module. And I'm going to do that over here. So to do that, I'm going to say import pymel.core as PM. And what I'm meaning here is that every time I say the keyword PM, it's actually going to run this pymel.core. So if I type in pm.sphere, you give it a second and Python is going to load. This is where I'm going to start branching off from the videos. Okay, so I got a sphere. So we got our commands on here. Ideally, we got to find what these commands are. I'm not going to cover structure in this case of the commands. I'm pretty much want to talk about how do I find commands and how do I do theory in commands. But this is what we have to do to import our commands. So when we do different commands, this is how we're going to run it. just really small. Okay? So that being said, before we get into finding and researching commands, we got to think about what commands we're actually going to create. So that being said, your first task you're going to have here is you're going to create your own tool sets. And by doing that, what I want you to do is I want you to break down the different aspects of when you work. These are, anytime you script and you want to come down with tool sets and want to make your own things, it's all going to be based upon you should be writing this stuff down when you work. If you don't actually, as you work, have a notepad and tell yourself, hey, I access that command a lot, if I tell you just to make a tool set right now, you're going to make a bad tool set. You can write some things on there, but this is an iterative thing. It changes. So if you constantly go after certain commands, you should know how to access those things. So that being said, I typically start off with breaking down my commands based upon certain jobs I do. And you guys know you really have three main jobs when you start rigging. You have your joint layout, you have your control creation, and you have your binding. These are three specific jobs, and there should be tool sets for each one of these things. You should not be cross-pollinating between all these, because these are different passes that you have to graduate on to do that with. So that being said, could these ones have subtools? Yes. You could have one for just creating joints. You could have one for padding and constraining. And you could have one for creating proxy geometry, which I might not even add under the joint layout area. This has a whole set of commands. I could argue these two guys are really together, because when I lay out joints, I have certain things I do. You lay out joints and you start thinking about what you're doing on here. So if I'm in my joint tool, I'm thinking about how am I dealing with, let me make this smaller. So I know I'm going into creating joints. And this is why I have you guys create shelves, because normally when you create shelves, you start building things. So I say, okay, I know I need to actually create joints all the time. So Control Shift. I know I have to show the display of the joints on here. So I'm going to go into animation. Interesting. Joint size, so I make a button for that. I know I freeze transforms on there. So those are three commands I use all the time. Again, even right now, I'm kind of losing what I need on here. I know I do some type of orienting in different type of displays with those. So maybe showing, hiding my geometry and showing my wireframe on there might be things, but I don't really know right off the bat. Like showing and hiding my joints and my geometry will probably be tools I need in multiple things. So I could write those down as things I do all the time. Again, this is why it's better to, as you work, think about how repeatedly you do things, and then go in and then write those down. If you do things multiple times in a session, you should write them down, because it's faster than going like this and going da 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 like this. Because this right now, I'll forget what these names are, and the icons mean nothing to me. That I know FT means freeze transforms because I've done it all the time, but that does not, outside of me doing it all the time, that doesn't mean anything to me. And the fact is I have to put my mouse on it to get the name, that's dumb. So I'd rather have three buttons on top of each other that says freeze transforms, create joint, and joint size. Also, the order of those commands will matter too, because I typically go click, 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 click. I want myself, as I work, I'm moving through my joint system, my tool set. So I'm normally starting at the top while I'm doing things, and I'm kind of filtering down. So I know when I'm in a certain process, I'm in the middle, or I'm at the bottom, and I'll have subdividers for those areas. I don't want to have to think. If I have to do this, That's a command. That's stupid. I should get rid of how many times have you used any of the other things? How many times have I show and hide lights, cameras, image planes? I don't. I just don't do that. And the fact that I have to do this drives me wild. Every lecture I have to do that drives me wild. Every time I have to go in here and do this, wireframe unshaded, X-ray on joints. I should have buttons for those things to turn those on and off. Yes, I know there's a button here for that. I forget about it, and I have to do this. I hold my mouse over it. No. Fast. You need to be fast. So this is one of those things I'm doing on here. And this is leading you into building more complicated tool sets. Thinking about that order. So when I'm in joints, I have a simple tool set of just doing joints, and it's small and out of the way here. So that being said, I know I'm going to have a tool for showing and hiding joints, geometry, and controls, NURBS curves. And that's just because I know I'm going to need that. Is that going to change? Are we going to add those on there? Yes. Are these going to be things that I'm going to use between multiple tool sets? Yes. That's an important one. Okay. Wireframe unshaded. The reason why I put X-ray joints on there is because that gets turned off when you open a new scene, and that's annoying. Okay. Ideally, you want to keep on expanding these based upon need on there. Okay. Cool. So we know we're going to have freeze transforms, delete history. I'm probably not going to have delete history on this one because this is my joints. I don't delete history on my joints or anything like that. But I know joint size. And what was the other one? Joints. Joint tool. Okay. And this is just going off for me doing day-to-day work. These are easy ones to come up with. But as I work, I'll keep a list here, like a pad of paper, and I'll write it down. I'm like, that's a script. That's a tool. Anytime I have to do that, that's a tool. We get into things like orienting joints, making, reorienting areas, cleaning values, and you get more workflow for those type of things. But the higher priority ones should be in a very quick area, and I probably will change the color of these to draw my eye to them. If making a little icon for those do that, great. Fantastic. Okay, so this will be our job, is to research these guys. How do I build these? And it will always be the most important thing on here. Build it quick. In this stage, quicker is better. If you're spending all this elaborate time, like you want to make a toggle switch to turn your joints visibilities on or off, can't you just make a button to say on and off? Oh, it's only turning on and off in the perspective camera. I really want it turning on and off on all 4 cameras at one time. Can I have it actually do that based upon what camera you have highlighted at the time? Yes, or you can run 4 commands. What's faster? The 4 commands, because I have to research all that other stuff. Is anybody ever going to be looking at these scripts later on? No. These are only for you. So if you tell yourself, yeah, I spent all that time building that tool, pat on the back. But does that make the tool better and faster? No. Get them working, and then when you budget time to go back and make cleanup on that, go, oh, I want to learn how to do that because I want to learn how to use if statements to toggle between 2 states. Great. Make time for it. But if you're sitting here working in Portfolio or in a time, you got to get things done. You're on my time in that case. That makes sense. Okay, so I'll have to research this and go from there. Okay, one really quick way of researching this. Right here. They're right there. I right click on them. I say edit. There's our mel command for it right there. Yes, there's other ways of doing this, but this is by far the quickest way. So that's one way. Yes, we will need to eventually bring this into Python, but will this work in our current iteration? Yes, yes it will. So let me start putting down some commands. Now these are mel commands, so I'm going to bring them over here. So I go edit, there's my joint tool. We should be able to bring this over here. And then I should jump right in the joint tool by highlighting this and hit single play. Did it do it? Yep. Is this faster than going up here? It is not at this point, but it will be eventually in the long run. My joint display. Go edit. Hey, look. What the hell? JDS win. I don't know what that is. Let me highlight this and hit single play on that one. Did that work? Yes, it did. So I should be able to run this command here. And I should be able to run this one here. Cool. Okay. And then the other area on here will be our freeze transforms. There's our freeze transforms. So that's working. Do not expect these are just going to work. Test them, research them, play with them. Okay? Cool. So that being said, these are my 3 commands. So I will bring these over, and I'll bring these over to my script here, and I'm going to do this one. This is actually, let's actually change this print statement here. This is going to be, all of this is actually going to be blocked out code. But here's our beginning of our tool set. You know, this is actually probably a better way of, we'll eventually pull this off into a new script to run a tool set. So, tool set ideas. Okay, so these are actually comments on here. So I'm going to paste these down, and I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to use that whole control and front slash to comment them out. Okay? So I have my joint tool, my JSWin, and my freeze transforms. Okay? So these are my first ones I have to research. Before I start doing that, I want to have a couple more. I want to have some geometry in my scene. I'm going to have some NURBS curves in my scenes too, like that. Okay, so how do I find my commands for that are actually showing and hiding geometry? I really can't go in here and hit Control-Shift and turn this on and off. That's not popping up here. So how do I get that? Well, then we get our second level of research, and that's using your script editor. You'll notice that when I go in here and I turn my geometry on and off, nothing happens in there. However, if I grab my transforms and I freeze it, I do modify freeze transforms, this absolutely does a command on here. Wait, that's not the same command as this. Is that freeze transforms? Yes. Wait, there's separate commands to do the same thing? Yes, we're going to get into that in a little bit. Okay? Point is, if you do things different ways, they're going to give you different commands. At the end of the day, these both freeze transforms. Okay? Could I use either one of these to freeze transforms? Yes. I'll talk about these in a little bit. But the important thing I want to talk about here is that these guys did not pop up. This one did not pop up when I actually turned my polygons on and off, like that. Okay? So how do I research that? That's when we go into echo all commands. The script editor will show you everything Maya is doing. 99% of the things Maya is doing. That is a good and a bad thing. When you turn this on, it's like opening a reactor. You don't want to be in there for very long. You want to get in and do what you do and get the hell out of there. So I turn this on, and then I'm going to say, show information's popped up there. That has nothing to do with our command. I go into my polygons. I turn it off. I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to turn my echo off. So let's look and see what we got here. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to bring this over to my notes. Okay, so here's our information. We already know that this guy's to be ignored. This information here, that. Okay, because that happened before it. So we have this. So we got model editor, and then it's going through here, and then it's going update model. Now, pretty much every time you're researching, it's always going to be on top down to the bottom on here. And the idea here is to find when it's doing something. Now, this is our lines of code that happened between the two. I did this, and then it did this one after I did it here. So these are the on and off state. Do you see an on and off state? False and true on here. That's the only thing on here that talks about anything. And eventually you're going to start understanding what a command is and what different types of commands. In model editor are definitely the commands on there. How do I prove that? Well, we can run these guys individually. So if I go and I copy this over to Mel, and I do this, I can go one line by line and run this stuff. So I just know this guy is not part of it. So if that guy's not part of it, then this one down here is definitely not part of it either. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll look and run each one as they're going through. So when I run this and hit single play, remember what I did is I turned it off and then back on. So if I click this, you see how they turn off? Well, then this has anything to do with that. This sounds like junk. Typically, a command is going to do one thing. Turning on and off geometry is one thing. If you do multiple things, it's going to run multiple commands. Well, what's an example of something running multiple commands? Extruding a face. Like what? Well, something's got to duplicate that face. That's a command. Then something's got to give you the manipulator to move that face out. That's a command. And then you translate it. That sounds like 3 commands to me. So in this being said, I didn't do multiple things, so I'm pretty sure that these are, hey, model panel 4, what do you think that means? What do you think?
That's a comment.
It is a comment, but it says model panel 4.
It's talking about you in the window.
Yes. Which window were we in?
Perspective.
We were. So if I turn my echo on here, and I do the same thing here, where I turn off my polygons, see this is model panel 2. Oh, so if I run this command 4 times, and I swap out model panel 4 with 1, 2, and 3, will this actually hide it in all the windows? Sounds like a good theory, right? I'm also giving my no voice, which is not true. I have no idea what Haas means, but I'm going to take exactly what it is, and I'm going to replace I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to try this out. I always try to do it exactly as possible before I actually make some major changes. So I'm going to hit single play here. Did it hide them? It did. So now I'm going to copy this and do the opposite. I'm going to change this from false to true. Could I run a loop to run through these? Yes. Do you know how to do that right now? No. So what do you really want to do here? Get it working. Book. Look at a reaction and see it working. By the way, I left my nuclear reactor open, so I can turn it off. So if I have a command to run this one and run this one, how hard will it be to find out how to do this with joints and NURBS curves? Probably the same thing. I wouldn't do it from this. I would do it inside here, see what it is. But now I can identify. This takes practice. You're never going to break anything other than this instance of Maya. I have had times where I've messed with this stuff and I've deleted parts of my screen or parts of my Maya. But once you close that Maya and open back up, it'll go back to the normal. It's all temporary. So play with it. The worst thing that happens is if you're going to be playing, make sure you're not in the middle working on a project. So, because you don't want to keep working on a contaminated scene or contaminated Maya. It's not scene, Maya. So those are my commands on here. This takes practice. Okay. Boom. I might forget what these are. Okay. We do need to make this work inside of Python because these are mel commands. Could I put these as shelf buttons in the time period? Yes, that's good. How do I do that? That's actually pretty easy. I highlight it, File, Save Script to Shelf, Poly off. File, Save Script to Shelf, Poly on. That's much better than the others. And if you're being really fancy with this stuff, this is off. I could take my on and I can edit this, and you can see there's actually a double click button on here. And I could take my other state here. Oh, it just went away. Like that. And now a simple click will turn it on and double click will turn it off. So that's actually pretty nice. I can delete that one. And if it says poly on, I know that clicking it's going to turn it on because it's not going to hurt it if I keep on doing this. Oh, I clicked it more than one. I kept on clicking on it. Wait, you just said we're going to get into tool sets. Why would shelves be? Shelves are fine if you're doing things quick. I make shelves all the time. Your shelf should be able to promote itself into a tool set because tool sets are going to take longer. No matter how quick ways I show you to doing it, the tool set is going to take longer to do. So unless you have a spare moment to make it, yeah, go from there. And if you find yourself digging through some of your stuff, which I do all the time, yeah, you want to expand and go from there. Okay? Cool. Okay, so we do need to research these commands. Now we kind of know how to do those. These are our commands. So we can actually, is there anything wrong with using these guys here? No, they're not. So our quickest result here is to try to get this into a shelf, into a tool set as quickly as possible. And I'm going to move on to that. Do you guys have any questions on research? What I have not covered here is how to convert these into Python and more information on what type of commands these are. What is the anatomy of these commands? There is more information on that. Like there are different types of these commands in Mel. I do have a podcast on that, and it actually was in the CRI area. You should go back and watch it. I will put that on here and say, hey, at this point, that's going to be kind of homework onto it to do from that. Yes?
You're talking about the one that takes us to the web link, right?
Yeah, that's one of them. But it also tells you that if it's a command, a runtime command, or if it's a Mel script, that it talks about that. That's a vital one on it because it definitely, based upon one of those types it leads you down a different rabbit hole. If it's a command, you know you're doing directly trying to figure out how to do something. If it's a runtime command, it's just kind of like it's very primitive in what it does. It's really locked in to a certain thing. And then you have the meld procedures, which are scripts that are going to take you really deep down the rabbit hole. You better have a good reason for digging into those. You can still use them, but if you need to find more information on it, you have to open up the scripts and find more information on it. And I normally say there probably is an easier way of doing this. It's not saying it's not the way, but it's probably easier. Like if I wanted to research how hair follicles created, I'd kind of have to dig into the command, into the meld script, because the command, there is no straight command to do that, and it's inside the meld script. But again, I'm like, can I kind of fake this? Is my first reaction if I talk with students, because it's like, unless you have time to do that, that's a thing where I build my own time to do. Hey, I want to kind of look at this. Unless the whole project was making a new interface to access hair follicles, that's a whole different story. That is your project to do. If someone says, look, the hair follicle system is dumb, and we want to be able to create these quicker and want to get information back quicker. PyMill has not done this for us. My commands have not done this for us. I want you to make a new object to do this. Then that's your job. But most of the time, that's not going to be your job. Most of the time, you're going to be like, I hate doing this. So you ration your own time for that. When you go home, or if you have a spare moment at work, you have a little open time, good luck on that, and you go from there. So you always ration your time. If you have a spare moment between classes, or you're sitting down, you kind of want to you want to sit down and eat, and you want to watch a video on something and just watch it work. I do that with Houdini videos all the time. I'll just have something playing, and I'll watch it, and I'm not trying to build on it. I'm just looking at it. It sometimes becomes my entertainment. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. That means it's never going out of my head. I know it's there, and I know where to reference. And then if it's something really important, I'll write down what I saw and how to reference. I need to isolate. I need to use this, look at this more often. And I'll make a to-do list and say, hey, I need to watch this when I get time. So when I'm tired at home and I really want to do stuff, but I don't know what to do, I look at the list and I go, boom, there, no choice, do it, do that, watch that. Yeah. Okay. I'm taking from personal experience, not because I'm berating you guys. Because I get home, I'm tired. If I don't have a list of things to do that tell me, it's like a voice in my past saying, shut up, sit down and do this. So you said you wanted to work. Just because you're getting stressed out and anxiety because you don't know what direction to go in and everything's pulling you in different directions, no, you got to push forward. Okay, so this will have to be, you'll have to watch that to go in more detail. The main thing is, my objective here is to get you into building a tool set as quickly as possible. And we kind of did up here, but now I want to isolate these into different areas. So that is going to take us into a new script. And that's going to take us into interfaces. Again, this stuff was covered in CRI. So I want you guys to be able to create quick interfaces so you can isolate your tools and do different things and launch them from here. So the objective here will be creating a quick interface that we can create some buttons and access that too. Okay? I'm going to go over this fairly quick because I want to show you my process. Because again, I do have videos for this. Okay? So that being said, I am going to create a new script. And I'm going to call this block1 tool.py. I'm going to save this. That's good. Isn't that nice? It even actually remembered because the first thing it thought it was a script. That's good coding. Okay. When you're in here, if you start typing inside of Sublime, the name of the script, and you hit tab, it'll autocomplete. Like that. We do need to import our PyMill. And we do have to have a print statement to state it's working. Print. Okay. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to take my running code, and I'm going to verify that it's actually working. Good. It is. Okay. So now we need to run a basic interface. pm.window creates a window. I am going to make a variable called wind width, and I'm going to set it to 300. So I'm going to say my width is going to be my wind width. Again, the tabbing auto completes. I'm going to make it a title. I'm going to say basic toolset. Okay. Cool. I think that's good. Okay. I am going to give it a height. I normally don't give it a height. I'm going to get rid of this eventually. And the reason is because I need it to have some type of space. And then I need to show this window. So I'm going to say this is my win object. And I'm going to say win object dot show. This should create a window. I am going to share this code too. Block tool. Okay. I will put this up on Discord in a little bit. Matter of fact, I will open this up and holy crap. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to save this. You're probably wondering if there's a way of actually taking that Python script and loading it right to gist from there. You can do that. You can have it update and do that stuff too. And you can pull in the same way. So other people can be pulling the most recent one too. So I run this and it creates a basic window. Cool. So that being said, I'm going to create a simple button, pm.column layout. And I'm going to make a couple buttons. Here's my buttons. And I'm going to give them a width, which I'm going to do win width. The nice thing about this is if I don't like the size of my window, I can adjust them here. And do that. Now, my window can only go so small, so I'm going to do this 25. See? I want to make this a little bigger so I have something to grab it on like this. I want it to be at least this size so I can move it around really easily because these guys get in the way. This is actually, obviously this is a PC issue. The Mac you can do this smaller because this is like, these guys are over on here on the side. You have more of a surface area on that. So this could be on here, but it looks like it's like 200 on there. Because I want to be able to move it around when I'm working and get it out of the way. Okay? So my last step on here is I want to make this a function so I can isolate this each time I want to run this. What I mean by is I want to make this a separate tool. Def GUI, and I'm going to dent these over like that. All this is doing is make a command that every time I call this script and say GUI, it runs this here. You shouldn't be running it that way. Adam, you should be saving in your scripts folder and running it that way.
Yeah, I just had a script that I wanted to get.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I saw your errors popping up.
No, it was just an old thing that I don't know why
Okay.
I put on there, so I just wanted to.
Just making sure. So I go in here and I'm going to say block 1 tool .GUI. I'm going to save this and run it. Now when I run this, nothing happens because I have to run this this function here on there. Now I know you guys are going to be pretty rough on functions. Okay. So I saved it. Okay, so we got our first error. So it says right here, block 1, 2. How about tool? Yeah, can't fix stupid. Okay. No, I did not do that purposely for you guys. Okay. This is an important part. You should have this as a separate script ready to go. Because you're going to be doing this over and over and over and over again. Do not reinvent the wheel. Have the start and build off that. Hey, is it illegal to take someone else's stuff you like the framework and building out of that? No. So if you see someone that has a script you really like, can I add that into my own tool set? Yes. Why not? Why run someone else's tool set? Let's say it's a bunch of control icon creations inside of an auto rigging system. Well, I don't like the auto rigging system, or I'm not going to be using it. I'm just going to use his code on these. I'm going to bring them into mine. You're not taking credit for that. You're using it to make yourself faster. That's fine. So if I give you this, is it okay to flush out from this point? Yeah, because you're still building your own tool sets. Main thing is you're thinking about making faster. Each one of you guys is going to have your own defined set of ways of doing things. And as long as you're producing work fast, that's all that matters. Okay. So that being said, we have our tools. These aren't doing anything yet. We do need to actually create our tools on here, and we have them here. Let's do this guy first. Actually, let's do one of these guys first here, joint tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go here and I'm going to call this GUI. I'm going to copy this down, and I'm not going to change this one. I'm going to call this GUI example. And this is going to be my real GUI in here. So my first one will be label joint tool. Okay. My second one is going to be my label joint size. My third one is going to be my label freeze transforms. I have not really done anything on this yet, but when I run this, you see I have my names on here. I just updated the list. So if you download and save it and overwrite your current file, it should work. Okay. Is this toolset doing anything right now? No. So what I do need to do is I need to have my GUI example, or this guy, trigger into another one. So you have flags called commands on buttons. And this command, when I put a command inside this command flag, it does something as a result. Well, I want it to run a function. Okay? Every time I click this button, I want to run this guy here. So I'm going to say button clicked, and I'm going to do this, like that. This will run an error. The reason is nothing invalid about this. Watch, I'm going to show you. Do not do this yet. I'm just showing you. So if I click this button, it gives me an error. I told you it was going to do this. It says something takes no arguments one given. And the reason why this is a Maya thing, not a Python thing, is that the command passes information into this function, and we need to have, what's wrong?
Huh? Vending machines won't take quarters, so.
Okay, that's interesting. So that being said, when I click this button, it's passing information down here. Now, I'm not really talking about arguments and functions in more detail. The main thing is I need to have this ready to accept information on it, even though we're not using it. So anytime you're going to have a button clicked with this guy, we're going to use something called star args inside here. This is not a normal part of just functions in general. This is all dealing with when I press a button, it's what Maya is passing back. Again, I think I covered this in more detail in the video when I did on this, but the point is that this guy now has a link to this button click. So when I save this and I run it, when I press the button, it says this button has been clicked. That's the important thing, is we're starting to build our tool set. Okay? So that being said, every time we click our button, so down here, this is our prototype. Every time I want to make a new tool set, I'll just copy this code into a new area and flush this out. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to copy this code and bring it down here. But instead of button clicked, I'm going to call this joint tool. Joint tool. And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say command. Eventually, I'm going to build what the joint tool is doing on here. So watch, when I save this and I run it, I'm going to get rid of my example on there. Nope, no. It says this button has been clicked. I don't want that. I want to see joint tool active. See? Sounds like a good time to actually do some gist update. So now you can see my code increasing as it's going through. Cool. So I could make a function for each one of these buttons. Joint size, freeze transforms, okay? I'm going to save that. I'm also going to run these guys, joint size, C is the shorthand for command. Okay. Boop. Do I care if those functions are doing the tool or not? No. I just want to see a connectivity. I can assume that when I click on this, the joint tool is going to turn on, that this is going to bring my joint size, and this is going to be freezing my transforms. The fact is you make commands like this what we're called abstractly. And what I mean like that is that you just assume they're going to do what they're supposed to do. You don't worry about how they do that. Same thing as when you start your car, you don't care how your starter works. The only time you care about how your starter works is that when you turn your key and it doesn't do anything. Then you very intimately want to know how that damn thing works. Then we open our hood of our car and stare at it for 5 minutes as if that's going to fix things. We're going to magically, psionically fix our car by staring at it. We all have to do that. It's part of the process. It makes us feel important. Okay. More question our life decisions. Like, I should have been a mechanic too, so I should have studied more how to fix my car better. Is this true? There's got to be someone I can rip off. Okay. Never let a good mechanic go. Okay. So, or a trustworthy mechanic. Let's do that. There we go. So that's our beginning of our script. Then our next final area I'm going to cover here is flushing these out and making these buttons do what they're supposed to do. Does this kind of make sense so far? That same thing I went back to over here where I was going through my research. On here, did I do that here? Yeah, right here. When I was going through this, you will flush this out into each phase. When I'm doing control icons, what type of thing? Hey, you can come in. Oh.
Example, what?
No, let's finish this and we'll go.
No, sorry.
Okay. So that being said, when you create controls, what are the most common things when creating controls you have to do? Let me know. What do you think? I'm creating controls. What do I have to have buttons for? Circles, squares, cubes, arrows, control icons. Are there other people out there that have these scripts? Yes. Can you use those? Yes. Can you actually expand on their tools? I've actually created other tool sets and added stuff onto theirs, or completely stripped out areas that I liked of those and just used only those areas because the other was too cluttered. Maybe they stacked on a renamer onto their control creator and it was just too cluttered. Or I didn't find a renamer or something I was going to use. So I just took his code from that, put it on mine, so I could just get a tool set. Again, you're not selling this. I'm not putting that on my demo reel. Because creating a control icon creator is not something I'm putting on my demo reel. Because it's something you're just expected to know how to do or be able to create faster. Point is, you think about the controls you create all the time and you find different ways of doing those. Quicker is better. Don't think I have to mathematically create all my controls and understand the fastest, the most efficient way of doing it. Efficiency is something you build over time. Think of this as writing a paper. Your first pass is just a first pass. It's a rough draft. You're not trying to make that perfect. This is not like R.R. Martin. We're not that. Okay? So that being the case, each one of these areas have areas that you're going to be using all the time. And how you organize those, that's going to be a thing that we're going to do all the time. Okay. So that will be a task that I want you to do. By the time we come to the next one, this is all stuff that will help you on your tools. I want to see that stuff. I want to see that you're actually organizing your tools and things like that, and we can talk about that. I want to hear, I'm having real trouble like creating hair follicles with a tool button for that. I'm having a lot of trouble finding this or finding that or bringing this together to make it do this. This is the first level. The second level will be augmenting this to do multiple things. Creating a control, snapping into position. Creating control, renaming it, putting up this, making a piece of proxy geometry and going in there. So definitely the proxy geometry, all those tools. Oh, if you think that jumping back and forth on this drives me crazy, can you imagine how I could look like when I'm doing this? Yeah, no, that's not happening. Half of this stuff I don't need. Duplicate, extract, good. Poke, wedge, no, no. You know, I need to make cuts. I need to extract. I need to separate things. I need to do stuff like that. I need to rename that stuff. That's what I'm going to isolate on those. Okay. So last part. I want to actually make these actually work. And again, I'm going to do this the quickest way possible, and that's cheating. I can convert this stuff into Python. You guys don't know how to do that yet. If I gave you Mel and say, hey, convert this into Python, well, you might a little bit know it, but it's going to take time to do it. If you first come down, you have no idea to do that. You can have Python run over to Mel and execute it from that side. This is how we do it. I'm going to open up a new tab. We have a bunch of Mel commands to test this out on too. Okay. Now, it is PyMel. Now, when we go into the PyMel documentation, which I'm going to have to go into my normal help doc. Man, I hate you so much. Not you guys, but it brings up Edge, which I never want. Okay. So I go into my technical documentations, and I'm going to go into my PyMel reference. Nice. That's Autodesk. It's working. It wants to jump right in from there. That doesn't want to make it create a tab. Okay, so inside here, you're going to see something that says module documentation. And these are all the different modules inside of here. But there's one that's actually pretty interesting on here. And it's a part of core. I always forget. Or is it not part of core? Let's see. I'm trying to just do this right from here. Actually, I'm going to just do a search on here. Okay. I'm going to type in Mel to Python. Okay. And I got to do Mel to Py. That's what it is. Okay. So it says pymel.tools mel to Py on here. So this is actually a module that will convert Mel into Python on here. We also have another one. This is actually a really cool one on here. This is actually an automatic converter on there. But if I type in meleval, there's actually a command called meleval on here, which is actually not 100% correct on here. This is what it looks like. It's going to be pymel.mel.eval. And what this does, and we'll see some examples. I did say poop. That's like it's out of the corner of my eye. Mel.poop. You can go in here and actually import this. Oh, God, don't do that. That's bad coding. Oh, man, they do it in here. Okay, so you can access the Mel library by going to pymel.mel on here. And if I run just this, okay, so it didn't say pymel. Is it core? Oh, no, is it tools, like core.mel? Nope. I don't think it's that. Nope. It's got to be talking about Mel. Yeah, it should be this one. Yeah, it should be that. Hmm. Nope. PyMel's the base. No. Did they make the change the name of it? I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. Unless they had to do language, that would be terrible. Don't make me do that. What? Oh no, you didn't just do that. Oh, that's new. Okay. What am I arguing about? Okay, I'm gonna go into 2018. I might be wrong on this, and actually I'm completely cool going down a rabbit hole with this. Not Mudbox. And I thought I was going crazy on there. I saw this Maya.mel. I'm like, what is that? That's new. Okay. So let's try this guy over here. The reason why I say this is on this side, I've actually done this before many times. Okay. Import PyMel. I think it's core.mel, but we'll find out in a second. Oh. Hmm. Okay, well, I'll have to check that up on there. I don't think it's actually that. I'm positive it's not that. No, that's not right. It's never going to be in that same. There's certain naming conventions for everything. Okay, so let's take a look at this one now. And this is why we do this too. Sure. No, it does say Maya. Yes. Just for another 20 minutes. Yeah.
You have to input like PyMel.org versus PM.
Yeah, it looks like it is PyMel. I thought it was PyMel.mel. That's what I thought. Because that's what they're doing here. What they're doing here is they're saying from all of PyMel, they're importing all. That's what they're doing here. And this is actually not a good way of doing it. So they're saying right here, a PyMel, Mel is actually a part of that. So I should be able to do a part of PyMel like that here. I should be able to go into here and then type in PyMel.mel, which I was pretty positive I did. No, it didn't work. So I should be able to run this. This is very, very bad. This is a very bad way of doing it because what it does is it dumps everything in PyML to into the base. What? That makes no sense. Right, there it is. I'm seeing it. PyML.core.mel. I was doing that. Wasn't I doing that? Maybe I didn't do that. Okay. Okay. I swear I did that. I absolutely swear I did that. Okay. I don't believe that for a second. I'm closing down 2019 because I don't like inconsistencies. Okay. 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 I swear I did that. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's go over here. Okay, so I should be able to import pyml.core like that, and that's in. And I should be able to type in pyml.core.mel. And this is probably going to work, but maybe I can't. Oh, no, it's an object. Oh, I think I know what I'm making a mistake on there. Okay, I can't do this because that's not a module. Okay, I'm dumb. Okay. So I was doing it the long way around. But interesting is I don't know what this Maya is. So let's look at that really quick. Maya. What is that? I'm going to eventually look at what this is, what this Maya module is. It actually is a script, so I'm wondering if they're building their own system out on that. That's interesting. Okay, but not a time for today. So that being said, let me close this out. Okay. So what I want to do here is with my basic tool, I have my pyml.core imported up here. So if I type in here pm.mel, there's a command called eval. And eval will evaluate whatever string I put in here. So if I take the line in here and type joint tool, copy this, and then paste it inside here, it should actually run the joint tool from this. So I save this, and I go back to my script, and I run it, I click this, and it should join in, and there it is. See? Okay? So that actually does evaluate here. Same thing with this one. So if I type in pm.mel.eval, and I put in here this guy, I save it, joint size, joint size. Okay? And then freeze transform is the obvious one on here. So I could actually have this. I'm going to take this one step further, though. because I want to have one of these I'm there. It was an object, not a module. It's still there. So this is all I did on there, is that I ran Pymo.core and then I ran it separately. I had to run in 2 lines instead of 1. But that Mel is a new thing. The Maya one, that is a module, so I don't know what that is. That's new. So I have to check that out. So I'm going to call this quick tool, star args. We'll call this tool active. And then what we're going to do here is it's going to be that pm.mel.eval. But what we're going to do is instead of actually putting in the code right here, we're going to type in this mel line. And inside here, that's what I'm going to actually put in there. So I'm going to copy and paste this in here. So whatever I put inside here will actually trigger the command. So if I do the freeze transforms on the other side like this, I hate when I do that. And I go up here, it's going to run whatever there. So I can actually copy this and actually bring this over really easily. So I'm going to get rid of that, copy this down, or actually I'm going to do that in a second actually. I'm going to go down to this one here, let's say. So that's a quick tool, and I'm going to do that for my next one. But in this case, I'm going to say mel line. Okay, so it's not there anymore because I don't have it in my script. Pymel, mel, eval, mel line. Nope, that's not there. I copy here. I paste that in there. Let's see if that works. Boom. No module name mel. Did I make a mistake? Which line is it saying? Oh, whoops. Have some in the right area. There you go. So I can go in here and I could test this. I don't have it saved. Boom, that's working. Okay. So we got our tool set. So the last one we want to do is the more complicated one. Poly off. So I don't have to do this. I'm actually doing this the long way. Let me copy this guy here, the quick tool. I'm going to say poly off. I'm going to need to have another state of this poly on. On. And I just got to put my code here. Now the trick here is this. We have more than one line of code for this. We also need to connect this into our function. So I can go in here and I can type in, I can even copy one of these guys here. I don't have to do that. I have the code up here, so I can copy this. Nope, I just did the wrong one. I can copy this, put this right in here twice, boom, boom. The label here is going to be polyviz on. And then the other one's going to be off. Okay, and here it's going to be poly on, poly off. I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it just to make sure that it pops up and it's triggering. It is. I'm still not 100% connected to it yet, so I'm going to say poly visible, polygons visible. And I'm not doing this because I'm just being over protective on here. I'm doing this because I know I'm going to make mistakes. So they're definitely, they're actually working on there. Okay. So now I need to go to this one. This is all ready to go. This is stuff that's reiterative. You should be able to do this pretty quickly. So how do I take this here, which is off, and this is on? It's multiple lines of code. I can't just drop this in here. This actually is a way of doing this. You remember I said that this is actually not really a comment? It's actually a multi-line string. So does that mean I can actually do this? This is on. Let's get rid of these guys. I'm going to start with 3 single quotes, drop this line, and put 3 single quotes here. Now, here's the important thing on this. Let's look at this code again real quick. You see there's semicolons at each of these lines. In Mel, that means it's a line terminator. This would not work in Python. Python would freak out if it saw that. You just have this one block of code and going from there. Now, we have 3 single quotes followed by 3 single quotes. It's just going to block this stuff together and run this. Like here. Yes, it looks ugly as hell. Do you care at this point if it looks ugly? Will it still work? That's the most important thing. Yeah, if you showed me this, if we're doing our code review and you're going for a job and you showed it to me and goes, what the hell is that? I wouldn't show this in a code review. I wouldn't show this as an example on it. But if you were sitting down in an art test and you need to make something quickly, would this be fine? Yes. I said, well, that's how quickly I did it for myself. I mean, I was just building quick tools. I asked if I could build my own tools while I'm here. When I sit down in an art test, if I have an art test on location, which I don't really do anymore, but they used to, when you flew you out to interview, they would do art tests on location. So you literally had to do something in front of a person sitting there. It's talking about stress on there. And how I would actually, normally sometimes giving you the test might not be a supervisor or might not even be a technical artist. So the first thing I asked them was, hey, can I use my own tools? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Let me ask. And then the person that's going to be mattering is going to come in and talk to you. So I used to do that. They don't, like I said, they don't do that anymore. I asked them, like, can I do my own tools here, or can I write my own tools while I'm doing this? Again, that's normally a question that will get people. I need to ask. I need to ask that. They didn't fill me in on that. I'm just here. And if it is the supervisor who goes, oh yeah, you can write your own tools, but we want to see how you work without them, which is stupid. That wouldn't make any sense because it's like that's like saying, hey, here's a math test, but you can't use the book to research up what you're doing. That's not reality. That's why when you take classes like physics and things like that, they let you take your notes in now.
Here's an idea, but we're not going to give you the element.
Right. It doesn't, or better yet, we're not giving you the instructions to do it. You have to know. You saw it. You saw the image in the store. You should be able to figure this out on your own. You're smart. So I'm like, no. Okay, so let me save this and see if this works. I have no idea right now. This looks like garbage. I do have an idea, but yeah. Oh, guess what I did stupid? Let's turn it off. Boop, it works. We had to do the other state. That's why I said I did the one that was not visible. Okay, so could I just copy this over and do it the other way? Yeah, I could. I'm just going to do it this way. So the trick here is that you're setting your multi-line comment here and doing it. I will tell you, well, let me do it the first way before. I was throwing a monologue. Okay. I hate when I do that. I should tab over to the other one I'm doing there. Okay, boom. I'll save it. There is some caveats of making this work. Boom, boom. Cool. Now, you could argue that this is just as good as what I did right here, and this I already finished in 5 seconds, right? That is very true. But eventually you get to a time is that you're going to get more of these going across when you start getting into controls, your binds, and they're going to get all meshed together. This is not going to be confused. I'll even separate this as its own area. I'll have all my visibility at the top. I'll go over what is the most likely me to use, and I'll break that up into different areas. I'll do stuff like this. Set bar. No, that should be right. Oh. See. Are you going to get the visibility things confused with these tools? Not likely. Can I do that easily here? No. You can make dividers, but it's a pain in the ass. It's funny because it's so irritating because if you'll notice that when you're in different areas, they have all these little subdividers. Unless they added that in, which I don't think they did. I can find that out real quick. This is actually something I'm curious about. Let's see. Do they have a separator button now?
Didn't you go back to 2018?
No, this is 19.
Okay.
I don't see it. Well, it has a custom background color. That can break in a different way.
I've tried before. It doesn't. There's nothing exactly for it. There's nothing else for it, but no.
Oh, there is. It's actually in the shelf. I've done them before where I've gone into the code for the shelf and grabbed and copy and paste that multiple times and made my own. Because you can completely use them and move them around, but it's dumb. It's so dumb. There are some more tools in here that need to go. Every time there's a new version, I always look at that. So I'm wondering if I go in here and I just add this way, if there's a way of doing that. That is actually kind of cool that you can make a custom width now. I don't see jack on this. It's stupid. It shouldn't have that. The shelf is so buggy. I hate it. It's a necessary evil because you need to create things quickly, but it's a mess. So that does create a really quick on there, and you don't have that. You don't have to have all the printing statements on there because it's a visual thing. But in the beginning, to make sure they work, I do that. So how hard would it be to research and build one here that did the that showed and hide the joints and showed hide? Yes, this is redundant. There should be one that does either or because you just have a switching of these. So make that a project. Make that something to play around with. Because it would be a lot easier if I brought this in as Python and then worked on there because it's easier to switch that stuff around. Because then I could use a variable, true or false, and I could say, hey, if you press this, do this. Else, if you do this, do the other one. Then you could say, oh, another level of this is to be able to determine what the state of the command is. And if it's invisible, turn it visible and toggle that. Dude, if it's off and you hit off again, is it going to break it? No. If I turn it on and it's on, is it going to break it? No. But that's a hard script to write to actually find out what the current state of that command is and revert it back. Yes, there's ways of doing that. There's absolutely ways of doing that. But how much is that paying you off now? Other than then something it's going to give you experience. If you're on the clock, experience is not what you're being paid for. Getting results is what you're getting paid for. So write it down. Put in your list of little things to play when you have spare time, which you have none of. You have to earn that spare time. So you have that. Okay. So what you should be doing and what I want you guys seeing it when you're working on this stuff is that as you work this week, because everybody in here, except for Patricia right now, is in Portfolio. You're pretty much the same thing. You're in CRI. I want to see a list of all the tools you're planning to actually create buttons for, and possibly a tool set. Because the second level of this is actually organizing it and making it, because your first reaction is going to make one tool set that has every tool you ever need in it. And that is no better than a shelf. The point is a lot of my tools have quick little buttons on them like this. This is my joint tool. How often do you create joints and controls at the same time while you're laying at those? I normally do joints, and then I move on to controls or binding. So why do I have both of those things in the same area? Could I make tabs to separate those? Yes, that's a level 2 thing. But this works. Having little tool sets that I can float around here and do that. It's out of the way. I can do that, and I can click through. The idea is what I want to see you do is, are you organize these in a certain way that you're like, you don't have to think. You just click, 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 and you work on there. Final thing is, how do I make this shelf button? Well, that's actually pretty easy. I highlight this and I say save script to shelf, and I say joint tool. Boop, there it is. Make a nice little icon that catches your eye for that. There you go. You can even make a launcher to launch all the other tools. Hey, we are just about done. Okay, so I want you guys as homework on this, and even though I know you guys are busy with your classes and your work, as you rig in your assignments, write down the current process that you're doing. If you're on binding and doing facial rig, write those down and build those up. Think about things you're using over and over again, because eventually you can make an interface. Do I have to create a whole nother button for turning poly on and off if I'm using another interface? No, I could make, this is GUI for this. Could I make one of these GUIs for creating joints? One of these GUIs for creating facial rig? Want to GUI? Yeah, I can completely do that. And then I don't have to actually make a new poly viz button. I can just use the one that's here because it's already there. That's the key, is you're organizing your tools so you start reusing them. Okay? This is phase 1, making your tool sets. Phase 2 is starting to break down the process of things you repeat. So not individual tools, is actually using those tools to build something new. Padding things, renaming things. These start leading into loops and start reading into grading selection. Those are those other videos that are on there too. Again, the CRI does do that. So when I'm planning on coupling this is, I'm probably going to do this again in another couple of weeks on here, assuming I get new people come in for that one, because I want to refine this down a little bit more and go into here. You should watch this on there, and I can have you guys come in and watch the videos for an hour while I talk to the more advanced stuff on there, and then I can do some Q&A on those. Ideally, you should be coming in here at the very least with an outline of all the tools you want to create, or have that tool set on there. And then I'm going to say, oh, these commands are going to be important because we need to do point constraint, orient constraint, parent constraint. We need to move things around. And then eventually I might expand on that to say, hey, you need to know how to get values that are not point and parent. You need to get the position of something, record it into a variable, and reassign it someplace else. Because there are times where you can't point constraint and parent constraint. But that's higher stuff. Ideally, right now, it's about cheating things, not about getting something perfect. Okay? So, yeah, that should be, there's no excuse for you not to be able to writing your list of tools down. Because as you rig, those are the best times to do that. Even if you actually start just collecting a whole bunch of stuff and you're not organizing, we'll talk about that. So if you want to get me pissy on this point, don't have anything when we come in on next Saturday, because everybody here should have something on this, because it is what you're doing right now in the process of what you're doing. Okay. Do you guys have any questions? Ideally, this should be able to be streamlined down a much further time. And I said a lot of stuff is repeated off the CRI stuff, which I know you already watched and everybody else in here at CRI already watched on there. But it's review. The important thing is you need to be getting your hands dirty on this stuff. I could talk all day. I know how to do this stuff. You guys have to get in there. And this will have practical results. It's not until you start building tool sets that are actually doing compound tools, padding, priming, moving things around, renaming, and then eventually going on there. Phase 3 is actually breaking down bigger sets and into pieces. Ribbon spine. You're not making a button that just makes the ribbon spine. That's way overcomplicated. You're going to break it into smaller steps. What are the main points, objectives of creating a ribbon spine? What is the process? First one, creating a NURBS plane and positioning it. I could think of 3 tools right now off the top of my head I need for that. Creating the plane, rebuilding it, orienting it based on a joint position. That's 2 different tools. I want to be able to grab a joint, move the plane in that place, and have it rebuilt. Well, the rebuild is a tool. The orienting and positioning is a tool. Hey, we know a way of orienting positions around. We can use the parenting it under the object and zeroing it out, parent constraint, or be more fancy, you could use aim constraint to aim it at different things and choose an up axis. That's how we create our own orienting systems. Because aim constraints give you an up axis and a directional. So you do a Y or a Z and then X down, boom. That's how you can reorient your joints and things like that. Then it's creating a hair follicle system. That's a button. Yes, it's hard to actually get the information, but how hard is it to select the things you want to name them, or better yet, select the 3 parts you want, and then delete what you don't need and rename what you go? That's not that hard. So I'm thinking of 3 tools right there, minimally. Creating the plane, creating the hair follicle system, and then renaming that, not in creating the follicles and renaming it. That's a pain in the butt. Yes, that is a more advanced script to do that. So then eventually you add in putting the joints on there and cleaning them up and stuff like that. That could be another button, and eventually it starts to get fused more and more together. You start seeing how you're going to need to do this. To create a ribbon spine, how hard it would be to hit one button, then click another button, and then select the things you want to do and click a third button. Is that hard? But making all that stuff to work off clicking one button is a major pain in the ass, because you have to get the selection, you have to get all the follicle information, which is not passed back to you, and then, yeah, it gives you nothing back. It only gives you the hair system, and that's it. It doesn't even give it back to you. It only selects it. So you have to go through the whole hierarchy to find everything. It's bad. Deformers do that. Wrap deformers do that too. But if I hit it, create the plane in the position, the direction it is, and then I select the plane and then hit a button to create the follicle system, and then I go in and I select the things in order that I need to process, the nucleus node, or I don't even have to do that. I can just delete the nucleus node in the hair system. But I could just grab all that stuff in order and have it delete things, rename things the way it's supposed to, based upon a pop-up that comes on that. That's not hard. You could do that now. For some of you guys have done that stuff. And then finally, selecting the hair follicles and do the joints. Now that wouldn't be a very big jump to actually put the joints in position right after that, because you're already grabbing everything. So that might be possible to do. But making that as 4 buttons, that's very doable. Very, very, very doable. That's level 3 type of stuff. It's just doing that. Then level 4 is mushing all that stuff together so you are creating single buttons onto it. But at the end of the day, and that's more for distributing for other people to use it, because that's more from you compared to someone else. And that kind of goes from there. And you're advancing your Python theory as you're going on and doing that. Different ways of doing things, using if statements, doing loops in different ways, and eventually getting into objects for doing object-oriented programming and stuff like that. Would be nice if you had your own command for hair follicles that did pass back all that information, that did give you options to rename things, that did actually maybe have a ribbon system that tied into that. Yeah, that's all more advanced stuff. So, but we don't think about writing Lord of the Rings. We worry about writing C spot run. That's what we're starting here. Okay? Cool.